Welcome to Samuelsdottir channel. Kevin Samuels was truly a truth seeker, and after many years of educating both men and women of all races, but particularly those of African descent, in the art of navigating the ever-complex dating world, he was sadly ripped from our lives as he was called back home to the Almighty in 2022. Some of us, myself included, instinctively recognized the truth of his message. Many found his message rather unpalatable. I am hoping with this channel to make his message that little bit more digestible in a more feminine and softer manner. I hope this helps my sisters in the Black community who saw him as an enemy. Being Black myself, I hope I can bridge that gap. And oh, by the way, my father was also called Samuel, so in a twist of fate, I pay tribute with this channel to my father, who is also where Kevin has gone. I love how the Icelandic have a way of acknowledging someone's daughter in the same way as someone's son. So I appropriate the Icelandic way to find a suitable name for my channel, Samuelsdottir, Samuel's daughter. Enjoy the video.
But we'll roll with it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. So, guys, you look in the you see this, the title, The Self-Love of Modern Woman, of Modern Women. The self-love of modern women. We have heard, all you have to do is throw a rock in any direction, and you will hear these words: manifest, self-love, my truth. All of these aggrandized words for a lot of women today. And, I'm not going to lie. If you're a woman, I'm quite sure it makes you feel good to have somebody tell you you are the sugar, honey, iced tea. And that all you have to do is worry about you and yourself. So to that end, on Friday, I talked about how we're going to talk about Mimi. Mimi, the Mimi generation. Me, I. And if you haven't noticed, I have been going in quite a bit on this whole bad chick, boss chick culture. Okay? So on Instagram, I posted several photographs of somebody that I'm sure most people did not know. Her name was Grace Jones. And Grace Jones, I said, for all these boss chick bad, so many overqualified women are proclaiming themselves to be, here's what it looks like. Study and learn. There will be no Little Kim, Nicki Minaj, Eve, Beyonce, or any of these people without Grace Jones. Grace Jones was the original I don't give a F woman. Yes, there's Diahann Carroll, Diana Ross, all of these other icons, Dorothy Dandridge and blah, blah, blah. But all those women are much more sophisticated and mainstream. Grace Jones is in a class by herself. Grace Jones is on the level of Freddie Mercury of Queen. Grace Jones is on the level of a Jimi Hendrix and a Prince and a Bob Marley. It is a one-in-a-lifetime person, somebody who transcends everything. Back in the 70s, Grace Jones was tall, dark-skinned, angular facial structure, and she had an attitude that she destroyed fashion. Anytime Grace Jones was in a fashion show, she destroyed it. These women are talking about walking in. Grace Jones wrecked shit. Then she didn't even know, not only did she do fashion, she did high fashion, better than all the European models. So when I hear black women talking about European beauty standards, Grace motherfucking Jones. She took it to the white girls, as you think, and kicked in their ass in their show. And then she decided, hey, I want to sing. And she had arguably a productive and successful singing rock career. Then she acted. Grace Jones is one of the only people to ever whoop James Bond's ass. Now, that's Grace Jones. I don't give a hot damn about her personal life, who she was screwing, who her scandals. I said, if you want to know what an authentic boss chick, bad chick is, that's what I think of. And that's a high standard. Why is that important? Because when you decide to live a life like Grace Jones, when you decide to live a life at that me, there's a cost. There's a cost for men and there's a cost for women. But unlike most people, Grace Jones knew the cost and she paid it gladly. She paid it gladly. So I'm going to say this to everybody under 40. If you don't know who I posted, I will say me posting Grace Jones on Instagram and Facebook was both a learning experience and it's also a culture experience. That was some of the most sad responses I've seen. And I'm going to tell black men and black women alike, you need to do better. Saying that the woman looked like a man, I'm like, she may not be your type. She's definitely not my type. But come on, man. Look at what she did. See, we have a hard time separating whether or not we like somebody with what they did. We got a real problem with that in our community. And that's why I just let it rock out. And I tell you, some of the most juvenile responses came out of women's mouths and men's mouths.
Hello, everyone. I'm back after a short hiatus, moving house, etc. Anyway, today's video is going to be another monologue, but I shall tag onto that a little synopsis on what I think about depression. Someone in the comments of my last video also asked about how to deal with depression. I shall give my view. It may not be the most popular view, but I think if we are honest, it works for us. It certainly works for me. So let's talk a little bit about Grace Jones. I know Grace Jones, as in I know of her, and I do think she is an icon. She is, a masculine looking woman, very tall, very lean, very active. Physically, you can see that she's a born athlete. And she had a few high-profile relationships, I think, with mostly Scandinavian men, if I remember right. Certainly the Swedish man, Dolph Lundgren. There was a Danish one as well, I think. And she married a Turkish man, so she's definitely into European men. I live in Europe. I understand the appeal. But yes, if we take away her looks, which were unusual, we certainly see a very strong woman, physically, mentally, and psychologically, for a start. So yes, iconic woman for sure. And actually, to be completely honest, I am surprised that Kevin Samuels uses her as a kind of an icon, a woman to be admired. I get what he's getting at. This woman did not just survive on her looks, and she had very stunning looks, even though they were a bit unusual, but her achievements were certainly amazing. I didn't even know this, but she was apparently Jamaican to start off with. She really achieved a lot in her life. Anyway, so yes, I'm interested to hear his thoughts on this woman, because I would have thought that she would be the last person that he would hold up as someone to be admired. But let's listen to what exactly he's getting at. I think there's a specific part of her life that he is admiring here. And as with everything else, let's take the message for what it is. It's not an admiration of Grace Jones in general. It's an admiration of the achievements of Grace Jones in a specific area. Her attitude towards life, her demeanor. She wasn't the most feminine, I don't think. She wasn't the bastion of femininity. But there is a certain appeal there, I guess. She may not be everyone's cup of tea. I remember my parents, neither parent of mine particularly liked her. But then, she wasn't to everyone's taste. Important is that she had something which is to be admired. Let's hear what exactly Kevin Samuels wants to highlight.
You told on yourself. And see, that's what I want to get. And this is what I'm talking about, the selfishness of modern women. Modern women talk a lot of schnitt. But when it gets right down to it, you tell on yourselves all day long. Because in order to be a boss chick, a bad chick, or whatever, you got to be willing to pay the cost. So today we're going to talk about the self-love of the modern woman. The women that came before paved the way for what a lot of women today take for granted. And I want you guys to see what the end of the road tends to look like for modern women who put self first above everything else. Now, you may not like what I'm about to show you. You may not agree, but I'm going to tell you, I find it hard to believe that, well, you know what? I got a better example. I'll just show you better than I can tell you. I'll show you better than I can tell you. Because unless you can outdo these two, you can't really say nothing.
Can anyone live with Eartha?
All right, let's see. There we go. Picture in picture.
Within a religion.
To compromise? For what? To compromise. What is compromise?
If a man came into your life, wouldn't you want to compromise?
I want you guys to understand something. What you're seeing right now is a woman who actually had the receipts to show that she lived this self-love, my this, my that. And this is what it tends to look like. Tends to look like for far too many of our women. Many people have seen this clip, but I want you to understand what it means.
Was I married 4 times? Yes, I was. I confess I was married I confess I was married 4 times. And the reason I'm smiling is because I spent a lot of time giving the men involved in some of these relationships a very bad reputation. I'm not saying that I ever said anything that wasn't true. It was all true. Except that the reason that this one human being kept choosing selection poor, not able to evaluate whether this should be a friendship or this should be a marriage. I wanted to be married. And so when the opportunity was there to do so, I did it. I had not lived alone.
That's Diahann Carroll. And unless you ladies think you can do better than Diahann Carroll, that's a 10. And see, let me also talk about this notion of 10. When we rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 means damn near perfect. See, what a lot of women today are doing is they're doing the split thing. They're starting to say, I rate myself as a 10 because I feel bold about myself. But I'm not a 10 as in the terms of perfect. It's bullshit.
Quite frankly, I didn't know how to do that. I'm not sure that I know how to do it today. But I did think that it was time for me to stop and try to answer these questions for myself.
Pay attention.
I decided to come back to Los Angeles and learn to live alone.
She decided to come back to Los Angeles at the end of life. After 4 attempts of marriage, a woman who has had more than most of you could ever dream of. And she's facing with some very real things.
About me, not the role I play. And it's difficult to learn to live alone. It's difficult because I'm difficult. I'm not easy to live with.
It's difficult to learn to live alone. It's difficult to live with a selfish woman because selfish women are difficult. Now, you got 2 of the best that ever did it, that share your reflection. At the end of life, one is humble and reflective and coming at it with humility, and the other is cackling.
You know, you have 3 or 4 choices here that will give you a terrible day or a wonderful day. And there's no one else to blame except you.
No one else.
You're here alone. You can't say he did this or he did that. It's all you. And you don't seem to want to make yourself extremely happy the way you wanted other people to come along to make you extremely happy. Nobody can make you extremely happy but you.
Come on now.
I was an old lady before I understood that.
Boom. I was an old lady before I understood. She started out apologizing to the men that she faulted. 4 chances at it. 4 marriages. This is Diahann Carroll we're talking about. And at the end of her life, she had to go back to LA to finally wrestle with the fact that she is a difficult person. And what she has left is nothing except her. So a lot of people say in my tone and this and that, I am trying to get so many of you women to understand that this is what it looks like when you are a selfish, self-concerned woman. They have painted the picture that it sounds so good. But unless you are better than Grace Jones, Diahann Carroll, Eartha Kitt, Dorothy Dandridge, Lena Horne, the list goes on, you better pay attention. You better pay attention because that's Diahann Carroll, an icon. Well, let's hear what Eartha.
compromise within a relationship?
To compromise? What is compromising?
And her golden years. Look at that look. Compromise. What? And I want you guys to understand the voodoo she's going to pull with words that made so many women say, ooh, she's cold. She's this, she's that. But look in her eyes, ladies. Look in her eyes and ask yourself, do you want this to be your final act?
Compromising for what? Compromising for what reason? To compromise for what? To compromise. What is compromise?
If a man came into your life, wouldn't you want to compromise?
Stupid.
Who believes that laugh? Who believes that laugh was genuine? But when you spent your life at this, it's all you got. This is all they got left. After all of that bad chick, boss chick, selfish, I'm me first, me, I don't care. It's all about me and my bag. This is it. And this is it for two of the best that ever did it. Two of the best that ever did it. Not your middle class self.
A man comes into my life and I have to compromise? You must think about that one again. A man comes into my life and you have to compromise for what? For what? For what? A relationship is a relationship that has to be earned.
Oh, she thought she dropped knowledge. A relationship is a relationship that has to be earned, meaning a relationship with her has to be earned. You're coming into my life. And that is what so many me, I, selfish modern women are really telling you, gentlemen, that you are not on their level. You are coming into their life. You are coming to their lifestyle. That is why you can have women with children from other men, never married, expecting to get men who are making 6 figures annually, and then expecting strict monogamy and want 100% commitment for a man that they only have to share part of their free time. Part of their free time, because they are so great and wonderful, because they are everything. See, this is what so many women, you are talking about equally yoked. When you talk about equally yoked, a man wants equal investment. You need to invest your time and your feminine affects to compensate for his resources. There is no equally yoked with today's modern woman because they don't have the time. I want you to understand attention, but it's that lifestyle. You get to be with Eartha. You get to be with me. Come into my life, my life, my life, my life, my life. Who's in your life?
Not to compromise for. And I love relationships. I think they're fantastic. They're wonderful. I think they're great. I think there's nothing in the world more beautiful than falling in love.
Falling in love.
But falling in love for...
Falling in love. I want you to pay attention to what she's about to say right now. Modern women, this was your grandmother. This was likely your mother. These are the women that gave birth to baby boomers and Generation X. Marcus, Stranger. These are the women that gave birth to this warped thinking of this fantasy of earning and falling in love and, unrequited love and this chaotic pull, up, down, yin, yang. And this is what a chaotic, selfish, modern woman looks like in the end.
The right reason, falling in love for the right purpose, falling in love. Falling in love.
In love.
When you fall in love, what is there to compromise about?
Well, I have to say, how immature. Oh, this is so sad to see. I have heard of Eartha Kitt. Actually, I thought she was European. At least her accent is European, right? But anyway, I'm so sad to see this. She was of 2 or 3 generations ahead of me. I would have expected a little bit more maturity than that. Falling in love, and that for her is the goal. Not about building a relationship with somebody, not actually being in love with somebody, having built that love up. It's all about the short-term 1 or 2 year thing where you're on a high, and she probably lived her life like that. I mean, I don't know much about her life. I know she had 1 daughter. I know she died on Christmas Day, which is pretty sad for the people she left behind, right? But anyway, it is so childlike, this whole attitude. So I completely agree with Kevin Samuels on this point. She is exactly the wrong example of someone who's reflecting at the end of life and doing it wrong. Diahann Carroll did it better, I have to say. Anyway, so I'm just going to segue. This video is getting a bit long. I want to quickly drop my message on depression as someone asked me to do. My particular thought on depression is, and I'm not a psychologist, let me just drop that disclaimer first of all. I think depression is a reaction to not having succeeded at something that one wanted to. It's an admission of failure. It's a dejection. It's a crestfallen response to, I didn't make it. I wanted to do X, but I only made it to Y. I think both of these examples, Diahann Carroll and Eartha Kitt, demonstrate very well a kind of depression. They didn't make it. They both wanted to be married. In the case of Eartha Kitt, well, I suppose she only wanted to fall in love, so maybe my theory is wrong on her. But the point is, when we don't make it to our goal, it is normal actually. So depression is a normal reaction. Yes, of course, in the medical field, it is termed an illness. I think there are people who are truly clinically depressed, and I'm not talking about those people. Those people who need, medications, they need perhaps electrical convulsive therapy and all that. Those are severe, rare cases. I'm not going to touch those. Too controversial for me. I would just say for the normal, everyday people who either truly are depressed or claim to be depressed, I think the best way to deal with your depression is to muster enough courage, enough motivation to get to your goal. It's about the failure to achieve goals that makes you depressed, right? It's not easy. I'm not saying, just go and achieve your goal. There are many ways to get to goals. Sometimes you have to explore sideways, scenic routes to get to your goal. But the important thing is to get there one day. When you have achieved your goal, you are no longer depressed. But the road to get there is long. It involves a lot of self-reflection. Now, here's the thing. Don't wait until you are at the end of life, like Diahann Carroll and Eartha Kitt. Don't wait till you're old. Do it now. Start to formulate a plan that will take you to your goal. I guarantee you, even the notion that you're getting there, even when you haven't got there yet, just the notion that you're getting there gives you hope And when there is hope, there is no more depression, okay? This is from my heart to yours. Now, right at the beginning, Kevin Samuels was talking about women living in this fantasy world of manifestation and all of that. A lot of it is actually mental. A lot of it is visualizing you arriving at your goal. Now, I'm not particularly fast about the whole manifestation thing. I think it does happen. I think once you believe that you can achieve something, as long as you do put in the action, you will get there. But it's not just empty manifestation, right? Don't just sit there and say, in 3 years' time, I'm going to be a millionaire. If you do nothing in 3 years, of course, you're not going to get there. But if you do achieve something, you do start something, start a little business, it will grow. Start a little, collaboration with someone who is perhaps more business savvy than you. You will get there. Through that person, you will get there. It's all about doing something. It's all about actioning something, not just sitting there and saying, I'm depressed. This is not a very popular opinion. In our world now, we are not allowed to pull our shoe straps up and get on with things. We're all supposed to be there and act like victims. I'm not saying that every depressed person is just playing victim. I think that wherever you are starting from, you can improve your lot in life. It may be that you need someone else's help. Go and seek that help. You may need a professional. Go and seek that help. But the important thing is that you make that first step yourself, because there's no one else to do it for you. So this is my message to anyone who is feeling down, depressed, especially at this time of year. I know that, in this time of year, it's especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter time, it's dreary, gloomy, sad, depressing. Whatever the reason is, maybe you're grieving someone. Know that that person is there with you in spirit. Know that there is no death, in fact. You are missing them, sure. That's normal. Even when they're just in the next room and they're not in the room you are in, you could miss them. Okay, yes, I know that death is a more permanent situation. They're not just in the next room in this physical world, but they are in just the next room in the spiritual realm. They have just walked out into the next room. You cannot see them anymore like you used to, but they are still with you. Their consciousness is not lost. Energy is never lost. It is simply redirected, reconverted into another form of energy. If it is that you are ill, you are diagnosed with an incurable disease or something, well, again, what's the end game? Could you die? Well, we will all die at some point. When you die, again, to reiterate, you step into another room. You will never be extinguished. You will live on in another form. No one should be afraid of death. Death is a normal continuum with life. You live in another form, but we're always living in different forms. 10 years ago, you were 10 years younger. Maybe you were even a child. You were different than you are now. It's always about change, living in a different form. So even an illness, even a life-threatening illness, should not keep you depressed. Motivate yourself to enjoy the moments you do have in this form. Things will change, that's a guarantee. In the same way as you will die and you will pay tax. That's the way of life. So it's about accepting what you cannot change and motivating yourself to change what you do have the capability to change. That's how I would deal with depression. And in fact, it is how I have dealt with depression. I cannot honestly say I have been truly depressed in my life, because I don't believe that nothing I have experienced personally warrants the big title of depression. Of course, I have been sad in the same way as I have been happy. It's up and down in life, and we all can make the best of our situation. Mr. Samuels was actually one of the great motivators for women in the field of dating, relationships, marriage. His words were harsh, but they were actually quite motivating. It was basically a kick in the you know what. I would rather someone said all of his harsh words to me and motivated me to do something about my life than to be told all the platitudes, everything's fine, you're a disempowered woman, you're a boss chick, whatever. But innermost, in my spirit, in my soul, deep down in my heart, I'm depressed. No, I'd rather Kevin Samuels' message that forces me to change something. You see how that works? So, if you are sad, depressed, down, I sympathize with you and I pray for you. But I also wish that you, from somewhere within your spirit, pull your socks up and change something in your life, okay? That's the fastest route out of depression. I shall end the video here, and we shall continue with the monologue of Kevin Samuels in another video. And we'll talk about something else then. Until then, have a peaceful, happy, blessed Christmas, Yuletide, as we say in the Northern Hemisphere, in the European realm. And as usual, I wish you peace, blessings, grace, and harmony.